Everyone, welcome. So tonight we are going to be doing a very short live tonight. So this one's only going to be about 70 minutes, 40 minutes. Okay. And so we are running from 7 until 7:40. Tonight is the monthly Starseed Inner Circle channeling session that we hold on a Zoom. And so tickets for that is available at daniellelipton.com. And so you still have time to get a spot in. There's some spots left. So some of the topics that we're going to be covering tonight include energetic cords. Actually, we're just going to jump right into that one. So someone asked me how to make, I guess it was like an ex-girlfriend or something, right? And so I guess there's a type of energetic cord that forms between each and every person when you have an emotional experience. So an emotional experience may be perceived as when you get together with someone, and all of a sudden, if your heart opens and you feel the emotion code of love with someone, then all of a sudden there is an energetic cord that forms between both of you. And so this is normal, and this is actually a positive thing. And these things, when they form in a positive light, then all of a sudden each cord is not sucking from your energetic grids. It's actually giving and receiving. So it's kind of like a two-way love cord. And so those are very healthy and beneficial. Now, sunflowers do this. And so when it's not sunny out, you may notice that the sunflowers face together. And so what they're actually doing is they're sharing light ions. And so through the process of sharing the light ions, if any sunflower plant gets sick, the other plants will actually send nutrients and they will send energetics to the sick plant, which then in turn rebalances that plant back into a healthy frequency. And so this is how human beings work as well. This is why we are clan people. We're supposed to have a clan. We're supposed to have a tribe. You're supposed to wake up in the morning and there's supposed to be multiple people around you, like a family. And then all of a sudden you guys are living and growing together and working together. And so when we speak about energetic cords, let's say, for an example, that you may have had a negative falling out with an individual. And so what happens then? Then you still may have an energetic cord attached. And now, if you have a cord attached to someone who is halfway across the planet, they can still have thoughts about you in any type of nature. So it could be a communication thought, throat chakra. It could be like maybe they're trying to see you in their third eye. And so that would form an astral chakra, a cord. And so these things are very important that you clear, especially when you have intimate partners. And so when you have intimate partners, anytime that that person has a thought about you, it's actually sending you energy. And so the energy is going to be related to whatever thought that person had about you. And so if it's a negative thought or a lower vibrational thought, then and this is what is known as casting. And so they are going to be casting a negative thought or negative emotional frequency at you. And so when you start to go through the process of really stepping into, it's the Star people consider it a form of adulthood, is when we step into a mind space of I'm in control of my emotions, I'm in control of my thoughts, but I'm also in control of my energetic grids. Which means if there's any energetic cords that people are sucking off of me or pushing negativity onto me, then I'm going to go through and I'm going to clear them. So how is it that we can clear the cords? It's very simple. So you can take a stick of selenite. And so selenite is the number one go-to because these actually knock the cords off very quick. You can take it, you could wave it around your crown chakra. You could wave it up and down your primary chakras and all over your physical form. While you do that, it is kind of important to say, thank you, selenite, for removing any negative or lower vibrational energetic cords. And so when you go through and knock all of the cords off, now what's actually happening? So if you could place a video camera next to the person that you just removed your cord, you would notice that they may not be having the thought of you. And that's because there is not the cord present. You've gotten rid of it and you sent it back with love and light. So we always want to do our energetics with love and light for every person and for every situation. So if somebody is casting negative energy at you, it is perfectly okay to take it and make it into a bright little white light love ball and then send it back to them, right? So we never want to drop our standards of our emotions. We want to maintain love and light inside of us because we'll actually benefit from it. And so by coming into a place where you love each and every experience, it actually opens the door for 5D to a degree. And so, but you have to work through the process. You have to self-love first. So you have to really love your physical body. You have to love your experience, your existence, all of your past memories. All of these things need to be kind of like coaxed, right? And you need to heal all the traumas from your past. And so when you start to do this, and all of a sudden your heart opens. When you have an open heart chakra, that basically means that your polarity has shifted from a negative or a neutral position into a more positive polarity position. And so what happens then? Then all of a sudden you may notice that things become a little bit easier for you, because even if you get out of bed early in the morning and you stub your toe, it's not going to have a negative impact on you, because you're going to be able to rebalance back into a positive frequency. And so that overall is the whole evolution in a nutshell. It's your rebound rate. So how quickly can you get back into that positive polarity? Okay. It's not, you are meant to experience low vibrational densities. And so you are meant to cry. You are meant to experience pain. And so we learn greatly by experiencing pain. We learn by having these tough emotions. And the human body, we have so many emotions, but each and every emotion code is actually a form of manifestation. And so, for example, the star people are stepping forward and they're saying, let's say, for an example, you went out to an ice cream shop. You got an ice cream. You chose a flavor. Each flavor is a different emotion, because each flavor is going to trigger a brainwave pattern that is completely different than the rest. So when you're having that experience, that experiential code triggering an emotion in the body, whether it be joy or happiness or a low frequency emotion, either or, but each and every experience that you have is directly tied into an emotion code. So the second that humanity fully learns how to develop their emotion codes, they will learn how to project those emotion codes. Through the process of projecting emotions is how you change the multidimensional nature. And so what does that mean? And so they're showing me that you change your frequency, and then all of a sudden you're going to shift into a parallel reality in which whatever emotion code you are projecting helps to manifest whatever you are trying to manifest into the physical reality. And so they're also stepping forward and they're saying that this is the reason why Egypt used like pictures, because each of the pictures represented an emotion code. And so when we start to figure out all the different emotions and how to put them to use, and they're also saying that some lower vibrational emotions also have a purpose. And so lower vibrational emotions are used to trigger or push an individual into a higher frequency range. And so we can see that happen over and over again in everybody's life, because sometimes you have to fall and get hurt. And then all of a sudden you're awake and aware and you know not to do that again. And so what happened? You learn from the mistake. And so that's how the lower vibrational emotions can teach us. And so there's a lot of things that are happening in the civilization. They're also saying, and they're saying that this is for a reason, because when all that negativity clears out, the civilization is going to be at a higher frequency. And so through walking the darkness, it slingshots you up into the light. And that's what we're going to see on a civilization level. They are saying very, very soon. But it's going to look more like baby steps, because there was potentials available for humanity to manifest a very rapid or sudden shift. And so they are saying that the extraterrestrials and UFOs, we already had disclosure from the government. However, it wasn't as big as most of us wanted it to be. But what they're saying is that's because we're on the timeline, which slow and steady wins the race. And so if you're looking for the timeline in which you're not rocking the boat, they're saying that this is the timeline. And so it wasn't like a big rocking of the civilization. They're saying, but the information got out to people and got people talking. And now all of a sudden it's more of a slow and steady, which you want. And so, yeah. So that's energetic cords and plus some other information. So the energetic cords also, when you start the process of clearing them, they're saying that you should do it for several days. Now, the Arcturians clear these things with technology. And so when they get cleared with technology, you may notice that people who communicate with you or who have not communicated with you in about 6 months, if any of those people start contacting you right after you have a full-blown energetic cord cutting, then be aware, because when you cut the cord, the people who haven't been speaking to you but who had an energetic cord with you, those people always try and come back around to put the cord back on you. And so don't give them access to your energy until at least a week goes by from an energetic clearing, because it's important. Because if there was an energetic cord, now they're coming back around to re-put it on because their higher self triggered them to, then all of a sudden, the second that you make contact and communication with them, even if it's a text message, the cord goes right back on. And so you just want to be aware of that. So yeah. Okay, let's see. Talk about how that ties into the lunar eclipse and releasing density. Okay, so there is a lunar eclipse on the 8th, which is in Taurus. Now, the number 88 is leadership, abundance, and courage. And so the 8 is like a blessing number. So everyone should really take that number, write it down, and stick it in their wallets and say, thank you for manifesting a lot of abundance for us. And so, the moon energetics and evolution is very, very important. Now, each and every individual, we have energetic grid structures that surround our biological form. So inside the energetics, we can actually see density or black marks or tarnishes. They normally say that they're sunglass lenses. So if you look at the human form and just imagine or visualize that it's a light body and then you're covered by your skin. Now, each mark is like a sunglass lens, and you put it over and it doesn't let your light shine through. And so the more and more traumas that you have, it's like having more sunglasses in one spot. And so releasing that negative density or energetic is you could take your hands, rub them together, get them nice and hot, slap them together. Now, all of a sudden, your hands are biologically ready to project energy. And so you really want to take it over your entire physical body. You'll feel heat, you'll feel tingles. And so that's actually your chi energetics are being fired up. Now, when you combine that with your magnetism is your emotional frequency. And so your magnetism is basically opening your heart and loving your physical form. And so when you do that and you project your chi energetics at the body, it's going to start to remove any of these sunglass shades. And so what does that look like? That looks like you may have had a trauma, and it may have been a trauma from a childhood experience. And so when that trauma is in your energetic grids, it changes the perception that you see. And so what the moon does is the moon sends a type of energetic frequency out, which clears all of the sunglass lenses off you. It tries to. And so it doesn't clear them completely. But what happens is they get pulsed. Now, when they get pulsed and all of a sudden it starts cycle repeats, or like for an example, if you are holding onto an energetic that is really toxic for you. So let's say you will smoke cigarettes. Let's say you smoke cigarettes, for an example. Your higher self knows that smoking cigarettes is not in your highest and best alignment. And so what's going to happen during a full moon? You may develop a lung infection or something, because the full moon is triggering that density to be released off of your energetic grids. And then all of a sudden something is forming and something is happening because it's not in alignment with you. So you're being called to remove it. And now you have to go through the process of healing your lungs. And so when you start to notice the signs and synchronicities, like, for example, drinking caffeine, right? I started getting the signs and synchronicities, and then I knew it was time to stop. And so then I stopped. And if you don't stop, the universe will, they cause accidents. And so accidents can look like anything. It can look like a disease. It can look like a car wreck. But when you stay in the low frequencies for really long, or they could take all your money away from you. And so that's actually, it's all being allowed by the higher self. And so your biological frequency is what determines what experiences will manifest into your physical life. And so if your biological frequency is not in your highest and best frequency range, or following your highest potential or your highest passion, then all of a sudden these type of cycles manifest, and they're done to prompt you or to release the density so that it kind of forces you to raise your frequency. And so just be aware. Let's see. Okay. Those that have cleared and aligned will receive abundance. Oh, okay. Yeah. So the full moons basically, they pulse you. And so when they pulse you, it kind of makes it so you're clearing your energetics rapidly. Now, because we do see the 8 in this full moon, 8 is an abundance code. And so you have to realize that the star people are saying that people with the 8, it could be more than abundance codes with the 8. They're saying something about numerology and something about people's birthdays and them having a number 8 in their zodiac signs and symbols. So some people who are especially aligned with this full moon, they could be receiving any type of abundance in multiple ways. And so just prepare or just be aware, maybe that's you. However, if you're not in alignment, so let's say you're one of the people with much density and your energetic grids may be too dirty. And so you could potentially block up the manifestation of the abundance from reaching you. And so a lot of times abundance is the red, which is the root, and the sacral chakra, because normally those two tend to blend together. And so they're either out to the left, they're out to the right, which is either a feminine or masculine energetic imbalance. Or they could be too big, or they could be too small. They could be pumping out towards the back of your body or pumping out towards the front of your body. So the chakra system is very, very intricate. And so not only that, but inside each chakra is a grid that we can pull out and we can take a look at the entire grid. Now, the entire grid is, the top layer is going to have more of an effect on the top of your body. The front of the grid is the things that you are dealing with right now. The back of the grid is more of your past. So what have you dealt with as a child or an adolescence? And so when you start to pull apart the grid, you can get a visual cue of where all of your density is. And then you could start putting together, okay, well, what happened when I was a kid? A lot of times the childhood memories are blocked or they're locked from our memory grids. Now, the memory grids, those are really, really important because we are stepping into a day and age where we are remembering who we are. And so all of this information that downloads through me and comes through me, this is all information that each and every one of us has locked in our memory grids. And so that can be unlocked. And so how do you unlock it? You got to go into meditation. And so also mantras, mudras, using your energetic circuits, and then all of a sudden using your intuition. So these are different ways that we are able to call or manifest or magnetize the experience of the unlocking. And so we are limitless. All information can be downloaded in the now moment. And so when you have all information, what does that look like? So basically, and so this may happen to a lot of people too. You may have memory issues. And when you have memory issues where you're like, oh, well, maybe you can't remember the things that really happened in your childhood or adolescence. Maybe those memories are a little bit blurry, but in the now moment, all of the information that you need to survive or you need to do whatever highest passion may be there. Now, I have to realize that we're all kind of like plugged into a holographic simulation. And so what does that mean? That means that the physical reality is not quite solid. And so your memory grid is not solid at all. And so sometimes we have people come about and those people are very, they may believe a lie. And when they believe that lie, then all of a sudden that lie turns into their truth. And so this is the way that we also experience a collective consciousness, because they're stepping forward and they're saying some people remember it as that was a lie that they believed. But on another parallel reality, all people around remember it the way that that individual remembered it. And so when you remember and you believe, then all of a sudden you shift into parallel realities in which you are manifesting each and every moment. And so there is a way to go inside and change the past. When you change the past, what you're doing is you're changing it in the now moment, which changes you in the now moment and changes the timeline that you're standing on. Now, many people have come to a place in which they're like, there's no time and space. Time and space is an illusion. That's kind of true. However, the way that they're showing me that a timeline is a potential. And so a potential is, because all time is existing now in this very moment. So a potential basically looks like you're just shifting your biological frequency, which shifts the hologram around you. And it's kind of like a ripple effect. So when you pull your frequency in, it goes out and then it pulls back into your biological form. This is what shapes the physical reality, but it's doing it to every single thing around you. So when you start the process of changing your belief systems, changing your memory, or changing any of that stuff, then what you're doing is you're changing the frequency, which then changes the ripple back, which can potentially change the entire civilization. And so let's say, for an example, there have been people in history that wanted to go and like change Hitler. And so they were able to make changes like that using something known as the power of 3, but that was on their timeline. And so you can see that through meditation in the astral realm. You can actually go in and you can see other parallel realities. And because we're multidimensional and we are living in, it's a multidimensional reality, and it's made of circles and squares. And so if you actually took a look at the way the hologram is actually designed from a subatomic particle, but they're saying it's more than that. It's also in the astral realms. And so the astral and the subatomic, when you break everything down, the levels of consciousness run in circles and squares. And so your aura field is circular in nature. And so what square is a very masculine energetic. And so when you put both of them together, it forms the toroidal, which once again is this shape, we can say. Circles and squares. Because when you turn it a certain way, it gets kind of circular. Right? And circular is a very feminine energetic. And so that's a very magnetized energy. So this is also how the vortexes work. Because the vortex will spin and it actually works the same exact way inside the physical form. So your DNA is vortexing. Okay, it's spinning upwards. And so we can see that done in all of nature. And if there's not enough vortex energetic, the frequency of the location code will be very low, they're saying. Okay. Let's see. New to all of this, massively intrigued and need to get properly into meditation cleansing. Yeah, so meditation too. And meditation is something that, it's very, very good to do because you really want to feel into your physical form. And so, but not only that, the star people are stepping up and they're saying, when you just close your eyes and just rebalance for like a brief minute, you really want to start to feel the space outside the body because there's so much information that we can sense and we're just not doing it because we're not aware of it. But when you close your eyes, try and sense outside of your body. Try and sense, you can sense so much. You can sense magnets. So if you had a friend and they were waving a magnet, but they were in your aura range, so say 6 feet, you could feel that magnet shift and move. It's kind of the same way, whereas if you closed your eyes and you put your hand here, you would feel a little bit of heat or tingle. Now, if you take a crystal point, you could take a crystal point and put it up to your hand and you can feel the tingle. If you close your eyes, you'll feel it. And now go further away. Can you still feel it, right? I can still feel it from this far out. And so the more and more that you start to work with meditation and you start to work with energies, the more and more that your energy field can be brightened, they are saying. And so when you brighten your aura field, it's really good to do manifestations because your energetic grid structures can also be programmed. And so when you program them, you can speak into your energy grids and tell them what to do, right? And so I'm always nice to mine because I consider my energy part of me. And so I thank them a lot. And I say, thank you for protecting me. Thank you for protecting me against any negative experiences. I'm always in the right place at the right time. So that turns into a way of manifesting by speaking to your energetic grids. And so I'm always in the right place, right time. That's a great one because you're commanding it. And so when you're telling the energy grids, thank you, energy grids, for always putting me in the right place, right time, then all of a sudden it shifts the vibratory frequency of your energetic grid, which then in turn, it's doing this when the energy comes in and then radiates out. You're shifting the energy. And so by shifting the energy, you're changing the manifestation, which is changing the timeline or the parallel reality that you are on. So keep playing with it because you only have to do it once. Because the second that you do it once, it's on. Then you believe it. And the second that you prove it to yourself, the belief system is unlocked. And then you can start playing with it more and more and more. Okay, so what else can be true? Okay, so I never get into car accidents. And so that's programmed. And then you go right down the list, right? What is some? I always make random money. I always find random money. Random money always comes to me. Program all these things. Now, you may have to say it multiple times to really get it to stick inside the subconscious mind. And that's fine too. Because your subconscious mind, when your subconscious mind finally believes something, we've seen people take language audios and they fall asleep. And so they listen to like Chinese while they're sleeping. And then when they wake up, they know Chinese. And so what happened? It works like a subliminal message. And so the subliminal messages get programmed into the subconscious mind, which then in turn changes the manifestation of you in the now moment. Now, they've done scientific tests and research with people where they've taken people and walked them down the street of a city. And then they brought them back in and they put them in meditative states and they asked them to recall every single thing that they saw. And so the license plates, the colors of the clothing that people were wearing, what storefronts were where, what was the number of the storefront. And we are able to recall all of that. So that is how strong and powerful your memory is. So now imagine fully unlocking that with your manifestation skills, right? And so that's basically where humanity is going with the evolution. And so your evolution, the more and more focus that you keep placing on all of these different things, you have to realize that your focus adds energy into that manifestation. So the more and more you focus on it, write a list. What are some things I can do to activate a super memory ability? Okay, so there's certain types of training that we can do as well, because we do know that the brain is a memory, but we're also aware that your thoughts, they're not coming from your brain. Your brain is just transcribing them. So your thoughts, there's neurons in the heart. So memory can also come from the heart. That's a tiny place in the heart. The tiny place in the heart is the lower heart chakra, because there's two heart chakras. There's an upper one, there's a lower one. The lower one is important because that's where the higher self is attached. And so if you take the space between your nose and your chin, that space, and you go up, then all of a sudden here's another chakra. That space, and you go down, there's your throat chakra. That space, you go down, there's another chakra. And you go down, this is the heart, the upper heart, and then the lower heart. It's the same amount of space. This is sacred geometry. And so when you know the mathematics behind the hologram, then you start seeing through the hologram. This is a binary perception that you can acquire. When you acquire a binary perception, it changes everything, because now all of a sudden you're not looking at people as if they are just people. You're looking at them as if you are a reflection of something that I needed to have in order for me to evolve and grow on my path. And so it changes the way that you actually communicate with people, because now you're a whole lot nicer, because you realize that anyone who's mean or anybody who comes off with like any type of attitudes, we tend to have more compassion for them. And we have more compassion for them because we just realize that their ego or their energetic grids has those little sunglasses pieces, right? And it has that from all the traumas that they have walked. And so those traumas took them from a happy-go-lucky child who only saw the brightness in this reality, and it darkened their energetics. And so now you have a meaner type of adult. And so it is only through the process of self-love and self-healing and really deep going inside of you and figuring out who you are and what you love to do and how you can heal yourself and all that stuff. Like when you do that, that's when you come back to a place of pure love, joy, and acceptance. And it's pure acceptance for every single thing that's wrong in this world. And so just being at peace with it, right? But you don't want to spiritually bypass it. And so what does that mean? That means if you see something that's wrong and you feel it's wrong, then you are being called to do something about it. And so, like, for an example, if someone was trying to kidnap a kid, I would do something. I wouldn't just sit there and say, well, that's okay, they must have a soul contract. No, that's not how it works, right? You're supposed to get up and take the actions that you're meant to take, because every manifestation can either come from utilizing the heart chakra, or you could write it down and use the masculine energetic way of manifestation. So your masculine way is make a list, check it twice, go down the list, ask the higher self what steps or what things you can do for the list in order to make that manifest into your physical reality. But there's meditation techniques you can do as well with the heart chakra. And so when you make that heart chakra meditation, then all of a sudden you know that you're on the timeline and you know that it's going to manifest for you. And it's really important to use both. And so when you use both, then all of a sudden, for an example, they're saying, when, let's say you're trying to manifest a house, see the house in the meditation, you want to make sure your brainwaves are in alpha. And so that's a form of communication with the higher self, because it's a joy, blissful, emotional resonance, they're saying. And so when you do that, you may see green. And so the green means that you're in alpha brainwaves. And so you fire off the manifestation into the ether. You tell the higher self, I want a house, but I want something really nice, right? And then all of a sudden, you come out of your meditation. You know that you're on the timeline for it. But if you wanted to get the house, you're still going to have to get up and make moves to get it. Someone has to sign the paperwork, right? Now, unless someone gives you a house, but that's a different manifestation. This one, you have to make moves. So you do both, right? So you have to get up, you have to check your credit, you have to do all these things, and you have to just go with the flow of life. When you're in alignment for something, using the feminine energetic way is putting you in magnetized alignment. When you're in alignment with something, everything is going to fall into your lap and it's going to be super easy. When you're not magnetized to whatever you're trying to manifest, that's the masculine way as well, because you're trying to use your intellect to force it into your reality, which is okay. That's actually the way that human beings have been functioning for a very long time. But now that we're becoming knowledgeable about our magnetics and how to magnetize an experience after then all of a sudden it makes us more powerful, because now we can change our emotion code, which is our magnetic energy. Your emotions come directly from the heart. There's an energetic grid, which is your emotion grid, inside your smaller heart chakra, the lower one. And so when you pull that grid out, it's hexagonal in nature and it's blue. And so you also want to treat that like it's an energetic grid structure, and you want to try and clear it. So you clear all the density off of your grids, any of the little sunglasses spots. And so when you start to go through this process, you're going to raise your biological frequency very, very rapidly. So what I advise everybody to do, and what the star people want everyone to do, because they want to make contact and communication with each and every one of you. Nobody is special for channeling. They want to talk to all of us. And so that's the way that we're going to win this. And so start asking them questions. They will come. They will communicate with you. The people who do sessions with me have reported seeing UFOs. They've had Arcturians in their bedroom. They've talked to Andromedans. Like, there's all sorts of beings who are working with the star people. We call it the Star People Organization, but Star People Group, same thing. They just know themselves as star people. And so, yeah, talk to them, and they want to speak to you, and they will guide you, and they will help you. They will do the shadow work with you. And if you're scared about having them, then just ask them to work in the signs and synchronicities, because they're willing to work with you and they know what they can do to help. Yeah, excellent. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, let's see. I've stopped dreaming after my brain surgeries. Oh, any suggestions on helping me get back to remembering and dreaming? Yeah, that's a really good one. So for dreaming, I would definitely check out the pineal gland. Oh, they're saying the same thing too. So the purple and the ultraviolet frequency ranges has to be properly reattuned in you. And so I don't know if you've ever had somebody do an energetic clearing. That could be one way. The monoatomic gold is great. I was once, I can speak about myself. And so once I had Alzheimer's really, really bad. And so it's still a little funny. But I took monoatomic gold for 30 days. And then all of a sudden I felt like a genius, because I remembered everything. And so this is it's a high mineral content, and it just do your research on it. It's monoatomic gold. The brand I get is called Energold, and that's from Amazon. They sell it. So yeah, but the dreams, really, that's the top. And so many times, where's the scar on the head too? It's probably on the side, right? So you want to also check the scar. So if you can do extra love and blessings for the scar, they're saying, or place focus and attention on the area. Because whenever we have a scar, they're saying that a scar is a form of energetic blockage. And so when you have an energy blockage, then all of a sudden the scar will form. But you ever seen some people that they get like 3rd-degree burns or something, and then all of a sudden they don't have a scar on them? And that's because their energy actually heals the scar. Other people get a 3rd-degree burn and it's super tiny and they have a scar. And so that's because the energy wasn't balanced properly. The second that you get any sort of damage on your physical form, that is not a time to throw it in a cast and forget about it. That is a time to take all of your focus and project as much love and care and kindness to your physical form as you possibly can. So tonight is going to be an early night, because we do have the inner Zoom is coming up next. And so I know it's 7:32. At 7:40, we have to cut off. And at 8:00 p.m., we're starting the Zoom sharp. So you guys can still get seats. Seats are available at daniellelipton.com. It's the inner monthly Zoom session. And so you guys will have a chance to ask questions. And so any topics that you want to hear on any spirituality, it seems to it's just, I'm very, very fortunate, but any questions at all that anyone has asked me on any spiritual knowledge, they seem to have an answer for. So send the questions. Even if you guys want to email them in, or go to daniellelipton.com, and then there's a little icon down there so you can send us a message. And so send us the questions, and maybe we'll do it on the line. Yeah. Beautiful. Anything else? Let's see. Okay, monoatomic gold, got it. Okay, can you repeat? Okay, even on sensation. Let me see. Have a good day. Thank you, Annie. Okay, perfect. Okay, yeah, so that's cool. So yeah, the full moon, a lot of people have also been feeling the density release. And so the star people are saying you may have felt a day or two where you may be called to have a little bit more rest, and that's okay too. And so sometimes, because I'm one of those people who it's like, I got to go, go, go. Sometimes we are being called because the entire planetary species is going through evolution. Every one of us is going through the evolutionary process, whether we evolve or not, because there is a reality in which some people on Earth, they don't activate their light bodies or their oscillation, which kind of looks like a flame around the light body. And so if they don't activate their light bodies, they do stay on Earth in a 3D form, which then in turn has it. The poles kind of do a shift and then they kind of have an apocalypse. But that's not the timeline that we are on. That's a timeline that very low vibrational people like murderers and stuff, like the murderers that are like mass murderers, they're on that timeline. And so our timeline is filled with love and light. And so especially if you guys are watching these lives, you're definitely being, helped by extraterrestrials and you're going to evolve. So they always say you have to be 51% love and care and kind. And so when you're love and care and kind, that always starts with love for the self. And so you give yourself love. When you give yourself love, you always tend to throw boundaries up. And so that comes with self-respect. I respect myself enough not to let anyone curse at me. That was my first boundary. And so I threw that up. And then all of a sudden, half the people in my life had to go. And they had to go. And so, but what happens is now I've raised my frequency. And so now that I don't allow people to curse at me, only the people who were willing to not curse at me are still in my life. See? And so this is why boundaries is very important, because that is a form of self-love. And so you have to be 51% love and care and kind. It starts with the self. Because if you don't love yourself, a lot of times people turn to do things like drinking alcohol. Now, drinking alcohol will lower your frequency. Yes, sometimes it does help you to cry, or maybe there's trapped emotions and stuff. So it can trigger that, but that's only because you're diving into darkness. And then all of a sudden, it's like free passes open up for you to release these type of things. Yeah, so it's just crazy. When I went outside today and looked at the trees were waving at me, yeah, and you, not only that, but you can actually project your energy, so your chi energetics. Rub your hands, clap them 3 times, right? Feel the emotion codes. So I teach people how to do this too. Whenever it's like a cloudy, crummy day outside, it does not have to stay that way. And so you really have to open your heart. There is techniques to coax, and it's kind of like a very sensual. You have to be in love, right? So you have to feel a love-based emotional frequency. And so when you feel this love, you can coax the higher self down your body. You'll feel this energy wash over you. You'll feel it come out of your heart. It will still go all the way down the body, and it goes down through the feet back into the earth. But in the heart chakra, about a foot away from the body, it opens like a pine cone. And so that's your higher self. And so what you want to do is you want to coax the higher self down, let her get her seat, because she sits in the lower heart chakra. And then all of a sudden, you just project your energetics into the upper atmosphere. Now, you close your eyes and just think the thought, thank you. You can call it the higher self. You can call it God. You can call it universe, whatever you guys feel comfortable with. Thank you, Mother Earth, for this beautiful blue sky, sunshiny, warm day. And just imagine the emotion, right? And so I grew up on Long Island, New York. So we grew up on a beach. And so I just imagine and I visualize and I feel, what did it feel like on that beach when there was a crystal clear blue sky? And so what did it feel like with the sun blasting on my body? Made me so warm, and I was in love with it. Feel all of these emotions and just allow it to radiate up into the upper atmosphere. And then all of a sudden, you'll notice a ring of blue will open above you. It only takes 5 seconds to do. It does not take an hour meditation. You do not have to do any of that nonsense. You go, you feel the emotions, and you project it up. That's it. It's super, super simple. And so just try it. Give it a try and see if you do it. And then when you do it, come back and throw me a comment. Say it worked. Because especially if there's going to be a hurricane or something, you can do this with yourself, or you can do this with 3 people or more. And this is why mass meditations work. And so what you do is you tell the hurricane, go back out to sea, right? Or stay out and sea. And then you'll notice that the hurricane will go out. But then if you want to prove it to yourself that you actually did it, you can manifest a couple rainbows to show up. And so thank you for showing me a rainbow this way. I know the manifestation actually came from me. And you'll see rainbows will pop up, or your friends will tell you that they popped up. And so these are the abilities that we all have. Now, attuning to these abilities means unlocking your belief systems. And so I went through a whole process where I learned the physics of this reality. So the physics and the science shows me it's not real, it's a simulation. And so they have books online about how this reality is not only electric, because they have one known as Electric Universe. There's one book. I've never read it, but I know the title because someone told me. And then they have holographic simulation books. And so when you start to read and digest that information, it unlocks your belief systems. So whether you're a reader or you get an audio podcast or something, but listen to it, absorb that information, unlock your belief systems. That's always, the first step. And then the second steps is try, because place your focus on it. Even if you're taking your hands and you are projecting love and light into your bottle of water. Now, all of a sudden, if you took a frequency detector, you can tell what the water's frequency was before. When you project love and care and kindness into the water, you'll see that the frequency will change. And so we see this with the snowflake. There was one doctor who did, I don't know how to say his name, but I know who he is. And so he's, I don't know how to say his name at all. They're laughing at me. I can hear them laughing. So he took water and he flash froze it, and then it showed a sacred geometric snowflake. And so, but when he spoke different words onto the water, it showed a different snowflake. And so, so that's one way that we can see that our words can affect the water. Now, what I'm proposing you guys to do is use your emotions, because your emotions are much stronger. And not only that, but when you figure out the full range of human emotions, you're going to unlock so much stuff. There's 365 extrasensory abilities encoded in the junk DNA inside each and every one of us. It starts with the emotion codes. That's how we unlock it. Okay. And it's 7:40. With that being said, many, many love and blessings, guys. You guys can go to daniellelipton.com. And so that's where, if you guys want to get in on the Zoom is starting at 8 tonight. And so that's the intermonthly Zoom channeled session. That's on the daniellelipton.com website. I also offer sessions. And so my sessions are, they're kind of important because they come out and they say who your star family is and what abilities you are naturally attuned to unlocking in the now moment. And so your attunements, I've seen some wild ones already. And then the people have even confirmed that that's their ability. So like the second that they heard it, they were like, yeah, that's me. I do it all the time. And then all of a sudden, because their belief patterns were already set to, oh, that makes sense, right? Then all of a sudden they started to play with it and they started to manifest it to like the second and third degree. And so that's how powerful this is. Now, the star people kept telling me that I'm here to activate people's extrasensory abilities. It's done energetically, which is why I do energetic clearings in all of my sessions, before and after. So pop on over to daniellelipton.com. And so I offer the Starseed activation sessions or the Ascension sessions. And so we also offer a healing session now. And so the healing session, if anybody feels like sick or tired all the time or low energy, or you have a lot of attachments, we go through and I start clearing the attachments. We clear out the chakras, all that stuff. And we really take the time to focus on healing the inner child or, whatever your traumas are. And they don't even tell me they're traumas, but we pull it all out and we clear all that stuff up. And then they feel a lot lighter and they feel a lot happier and healthier after. So, and that's the most important part. So excellent. Okay. Beautiful. Andy, for your question. Oh, did someone have a question? Well, what's the marijuana? Yeah. Okay. So this is the way marijuana works. This is the way it was described to me by the star people. Marijuana has a frequency. This is the frequency of it. If you are below the frequency, it can raise your frequency. If you're above the frequency, it can lower your frequency. Now you have to realize sometimes marijuana pulses your mind and it makes you have bright ideas and all sorts of creative knowledge or downloads may come to you because you're on the substance. And so using it once in a while, wonderful, right? Because even if you're at a higher frequency and you use it once, you may get some insight and then it may take it to the next level. So you're using it as a spiritual tool. However, the second that marijuana becomes an everyday event and you can't live without it, even if you're smoking more than once, they're saying like more than once a month. And so that's a little, I would say more than once a week, but they're like, it's once a month because it takes time for that plant to detox. And they're saying it takes over 30 days. So you really have to use it and then not use it for an extended period. And so, but then you won't really have an interaction. I guess it's kind of like ayahuasca. You're supposed to use that and then go back to your life and see what knowledge and downloads come to you. Okay. So it's 7:43. We are going to wrap it up. Thank you guys very, very much. And we will see you at the Zoom if you guys are coming. Thank you, and have a great night. Many love and blessings.